You're listening to LSU Daily with Matt Musso, your home for all things LSU sports.
Off and running here on another edition of LSU Daily. Welcome in. Glad to have you with me. We continue to lead you up. LSU, Ole Miss, massive showdown with playoff implications, conference implications set to take place Saturday night in Death Valley, and that is kind of where I want to lean into today. We've looked at the game already, surface level, talked about the defenses and their improvement in a previous show this week, so we've kind of already started breaking that down. Of course, we've covered the Trey Harris injury from just about every angle, passed along every update that we have so far throughout the week. Now I want to look at the expectation. Now I want to look at everything surrounding the football game and which team has more at stake in this one, LSU or Ole Miss. So that's really what we'll focus on here today. Make sure to like, subscribe, share. You can follow me on social media at Musso Matthew. That's on Twitter X. You can find me on Facebook as well, on Instagram at Matthew Musso1. All of that greatly appreciated. And hey, look, kind of mentioned it earlier in this week as well. Would love the opportunity to work with some of y'all if you're interested in the sponsorship opportunity here on LSU Daily or on Musso at the Box in the future. Do not hesitate to reach out to me, matthew.musso@guaranteemedia.com, or if social media will allow you to DM me, you can always slide into the DMs as well. Here with SEC play kicking off, we're going to be just wall-to-wall going forward with the LSU coverage. So if you'd love an opportunity to work with me, I would love an opportunity to work with you. All right, let's dive right into it. So LSU Ole Miss. To lean into one more cliche with this game if I could, it's the one you've had circled. But really it is. I mean, and there's been expectation for this game all the way back really since the schedules were released, and that expectation has changed. And in a sense, it's actually changed just kind of for the better, and it's heightened even more, right? Whenever everybody gets the schedule for the first time, they look at this one, they see it, they compare schedules, LSU's, Ole Miss's. You look at it and you saw the legit possibility for a matchup of undefeated teams in Tiger Stadium at night with all kinds of implications. And I'm here to tell you that it's actually gotten bigger. And you might say, well, Musso, how can it get bigger than two undefeated teams, top 10 matchup potentially, squaring off on a Saturday night in Tiger Stadium? Well, normally it wouldn't. But with the expanded playoff, undefeated matchup allows room for error. Look at Oregon-Ohio State this week. It's a huge game. Both teams want to win. It's going to be a great game, and it's not going to, shy away from ratings or anything like that. I mean, it's still going to perform great. The two fan bases are going to be energized. All of that, the pageantry of college football lives on there as strong as it ever has. But the reality is the loser of that game is not out of the conversation in the college football playoff. That would have been the case with LSU Ole Miss. Then LSU hauls off and loses their opener to USC, and it looks like all of their margin for error is wiped out. So now it takes on even more implication for LSU, because at that point you're looking at Ole Miss's schedule still saying, okay, they're going to be undefeated, so LSU is going to go into there needing to win, having to win. Ole Miss will still have a little bit of that margin for error. And then Ole Miss hauled off and lost to Kentucky, and now you have two one-loss teams on a Saturday night, top 15 matchup, where the loser is going to have a lot of work to do. But each game that is ever played always has greater implications for one side than the other. Each team always has something more to gain than the other. So who does this game mean more to? Can one of these teams still make the college football playoff with a loss? Can one of these teams stay in that conversation? The loser has two losses, so everyone would assume that you would have to win out the rest of the way to even be considered. 10-2 has kind of been that borderline in the SEC that we've all talked about ever since the playoff expanded to get you in, and especially even in a year like this where the league is so deep, you're probably going to have a 10-2 team left out. If you just look at the schedules remaining for both LSU and Ole Miss, it's hard to decipher the tougher path. Like, looking at Ole Miss. Ole Miss this week is obviously at LSU. Then they go home to face Oklahoma. They still have a matchup with Georgia in November. Now, granted, they get that at home. But with the flaws you've seen from Ole Miss's offense, and Georgia's going to improve by November, not a lot of people really expect Ole Miss to win that game. That's a really, really big hurdle in their way. And then, oh, by the way, you have the Egg Bowl, which is always competitive, but y'all, Mississippi State's really, really bad this year. Georgia, Oklahoma, at Arkansas is tricky as well, sandwiched in between those two. It's a look-ahead spot to that Georgia game. So this next stretch for Ole Miss, like, this is the defining stretch. If they beat LSU, there are still plenty of stumbling blocks in front of them, most notably Georgia. If you look at LSU's schedule, let's say LSU loses to Ole Miss. What's their path? Well, they'd have to go face a pretty game Arkansas team next week on the road who's coming off a bye. We're going to talk plenty about that matchup as we get closer to it and after this Ole Miss because, boy, what a sandwich spot. But you follow that up with back-to-back road games. This starts the stretch for both teams, right? You'd go at Arkansas. You'd have to win at A&M, who looks better right now. And then Alabama comes to town. Plenty of stumbling blocks just right there in front of LSU. That will make it difficult. Then, of course, road trip to Florida, Vandy at home, and you wrap up with a ranked Oklahoma team at home as well. Again, plenty of stumbling blocks. But here's the difference. And I'll tell you right now, the team that needs this game more is Ole Miss. And maybe that shocks you a little bit. But here's why. LSU's loss and Ole Miss's loss, they aren't created equal. And I get it. USC looks real bad right now. They've lost back-to-back games, or I'm sorry, 2 out of their last 3 they've lost, but even the one they won, it was a monumental comeback against a bad Wisconsin team. So, yeah, that loss looks real bad. USC's not even ranked anymore. When USC beat LSU, they rose into the top 10, which was laughable, but they did. They're not ranked anymore. So, yeah, that doesn't look like a great loss anymore. But it's a non-conference loss. Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. If Ole Miss loses to LSU, they are a 2-loss conference team. With the depth of the league this season, it's not impossible that a 2-loss team in conference could make the SEC championship. But I don't really all know that it's likely either. You only have 3 undefeated teams remaining in the SEC. It's Texas A&M, who is 3-0, by the way. They've already played 3 conference games. Texas and LSU. LSU's loss was out of conference. If LSU loses to Ole Miss, they are 1-1 in the league. And let me be clear on this. Every single one of LSU's games remaining on their schedule is winnable. Do I think they're going to win them all? No, I don't. Let me be clear. All the games remaining are winnable. Do I think they win them all? No, I do not. But they're capable of it. And if they do, say they lose to Ole Miss and win out, LSU would then be 7-1 in the SEC. Depending on what happens with Georgia and Texas, and you'd be in Atlanta or right outside looking in, and you would be in the college football playoff at 7-1 in the league. I don't care that you lost to a USC team that's not bad anymore. You would be in. Ole Miss, on the other hand, if they lose, they have 2 conference losses. They have another, the matchup with Georgia staring them in the face, which is going to be really difficult. It'd be really tough. Now, if Ole Miss wins, obviously they keep their hope alive, and LSU, like we just laid out, can still get there. It's Ole Miss. Ole Miss has more at stake in this game than LSU because their loss occurred in conference, and the Tigers' loss so far occurred outside of conference. It's what we've talked about ever since that game against USC. Now, that being said, I don't really still know where LSU is yet. I can look at that and tell you that all the games left on their schedule, including Ole Miss, are winnable, and they are, and I firmly believe that. But like I said, I don't think that they win them all. I'm not even really ready to tell you what I think LSU ends up yet. This game will go a long way in doing that. If LSU wins the game on Saturday night, the scale dramatically tips more towards 9-3, 10-2 for LSU. It does. If LSU loses, I'm back where I was really after the USC game. It tips more towards the 8-4 record. That's what makes this so great. But if you're just looking at, implications going forward for the college football playoff for things of that nature, which is what everybody cares about, and you compare each team and their resume right now and their situation right now and what they have left, Ole Miss is the team with more at stake in this football game. And you know what? I think that plays into LSU's hand. Because we've seen this Ole Miss team under pressure struggle already. And that was against Kentucky when they were hit in the mouth for the first time with not just with a physical team, but with all the expectation that has come with their season. They folded. Now you carry all that expectation back into another massive game. And I'm not saying the South Carolina game wasn't massive. I'm not saying that. Of course it was. It's a tough atmosphere. And LSU saw firsthand at 11 a.m. what Williams-Brice can be. And it was awesome. Williams-Brice at 11 a.m., Williams-Brice at 2:30, Williams-Brice at 6. I don't care. Williams-Brice is not Saturday night in Death Valley. It's just not. And it's not a shot at Williams-Brice. Not many places in America are. Really, no place in America is. And you could say, LSU Homer guy saying that. I think plenty of impartial third parties have said that as well, that have experienced it firsthand. That team comes in with zero margin for error. LSU's is small. It's thin. But it would still only be their first conference loss, with opportunity remaining to keep it that way. It should be absolutely fantastic theater on Saturday night when LSU and Ole Miss do battle. This game right here is why everybody loves college football. You have one of the best venues in the best conference and two of highly ranked teams with a lot on the line, and both with a chance to change the narrative around their team. For Ole Miss, that you can win the big game, that the expectation of the season hasn't swallowed you up. For LSU, that you are ready to take the next step in year 3 under Brian Kelly. That you have improved the last 4 weeks and have fixed what ailed you in that opener against USC, and that you are here to stay. It is an opportunity for each team to announce their presence on the national stage in 2024. And it should just be one hell of a night. All right, y'all, that's all I have for you today. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, follow me on social media at Musso Matthew on Twitter. Find me on Facebook, on Instagram, all of that. Greatly appreciated. Please like, subscribe, and share. And be here next time for more on LSU Daily.